Pinellas County School Board on August 22nd, 2023 to order. This morning we will have a moment of silent reflection followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Laura Hine and the National Anthem sung by the Eastlake High School Madrigal Singers under the direction of Robert Knable. Please stand and remain standing until the conclusion of the National Anthem.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. You may be seated.
It's an absolute delight to be here. These are the Eastlake High School Madrigal Singers. They're in a formal Blackbird today, but they do music from the medieval and the Renaissance period. And that music is like you and me going shooby-doo-wop, shooby-doo-wop. They just sang fa-la-la, fa-la-la. So this is a madrigal about enjoying life and enjoying people. It's called Singing and Chanting by Thomas Morley.
Sing we enchanted, while the dock granted, fa la 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 la. Sing we enchanted, while the dock granted, fa la 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 la. Not long you've lasted, and the day chasted, now is best leisure to take our pleasure. Fa la 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 la. Not long you've lasted, and the day chasted, now is best leisure to take our pleasure. Fa la 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 la. All things invite us now to delight us. Fa la 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 la. All things invite us now to delight us. Fa la la la. Hence care be packing, no mirth be lacking. Let's spare no treasure to live in pleasure. Fa la 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 la. Hence care be packing, no mirth be lacking. Let's spare no treasure to live in pleasure. Fa la 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 la.
That was outstanding. Thank you so much, the Eastlake High School Madrigal Singers, and Mr. Knable. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. It was wonderful. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce today's video. We welcomed back our students to the 2023-2024 school year on Thursday, August the 10th. It was a very exciting day, so let's take a look at how the opening of the school year went.
Welcome to day one.
You ready? Everybody good?
Good morning, middle school. We're going to go this way too.
Have a great senior year.
Thank
Yep,
you.
yep, we high five.
We're going to enter from the outside of that little courtyard by our cafeteria.
You're nervous because it's your first day of first grade. I'm nervous too.
I hope you have an amazing first day of school.
Happy first day.
All right. That was a great video, yes. First day is always a little scary for everyone, always a little bit of a transition, but I know for my family and for us, we're starting to adjust now, second weekend here, starting to get used to the schedule and happy to be back in that routine. With that, we'd like to welcome our Public Information Officer, Isabella Mascarenas, who will introduce our professional and community organizations who are present with us this morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Hendrick, and staff. It is my pleasure to introduce the following representatives of community and professional organizations. From the Pinellas Classroom Teachers Association, Lee Bryant, President. Representing the North Pinellas League of Women Voters, Jean Reynolds and Debbie Entrecken. From the Pinellas Arts for a Complete Education Coalition, Maria Cantonis. Today, we have a presentation from the Student Rights and Responsibility Committee. Please welcome Kaylee Clipper, Hartley Griffith, and Kendall Ridgely from Eastlake High School, and their principal, Daniel Schmidtdeal.
Good morning. Welcome.
Mr. Hendrick, Dr. Gonzalez, members of the executive leadership team, and the members of the school board, thank you for giving us this opportunity to showcase our school. My name is Kaylee Clipper, and I am Eastlake High School's Student Government Board President.
My name is Kendall Ridgely, and I am the Student Government Board Treasurer.
And my name is Hartley Griffith, and I'm the Senior Class President. To kick off the 2023 to 2024 school year, Mr. Schmidtdeal, our principal, organized a student-led celebration before the first period on the first day of school. This included the band, school spirit decorations, and the student government carrying out the tradition of handing out Hawaiian leis to all the seniors. To add to the excitement, our welcoming celebration caught the attention of multiple local news stations to capture the moment.
Welcoming students is always a priority, as well as ensuring students have equal opportunities to be successful. As a result of our school's success from last year, Eastlake High School has unofficially maintained our A school status for the 5th straight year. Eastlake High School is also the second highest ranked school in Pinellas County. State testing resulted in us being first in overall ELA and social studies achievements, as well as tied for second in math and science achievements. Eastlake prides itself on offering an array of over 30 advanced placement classes for students to choose from. Last year, we had over 2,000 AP exams taken by over 1,000 students, with 1,300 AP exams passed. We encourage students to add these rigorous courses to their school schedule to set them up for success in college. In preparing for college, we also offer industry certifications for certain classes, and with that, we have achieved an 87% pass rate on those tests. Along with encouraging challenging courses, we promote club involvement throughout the school. As the board president, I have created and implemented a club calendar for this school year. Students are able to receive information on when they are, the time requirement, and all other relevant information. Since we at Eastlake have specialized clubs and courses, we pride ourselves on giving these equal opportunities to all students.
Eastlake student life is just as successful as our academics. We offer over 40 clubs, and they are specialized to our students' interests. Our school's student section, also known as Blue Crew, is one of our most involved clubs, with over 300 new members each year. As president of Blue Crew, I promote school spirit and get students involved by hosting tailgates before each home game. For each sports game, such as volleyball, football, and basketball, Blue Crew provides a fun and exciting theme for students to dress up and hype up our team. One of our most exciting events is our pep rallies, which we throw for our homecoming game as well as our rival game, getting the whole school involved. Blue Crew is a great way to show your school spirit and is open to any student who wants to join in on the fun. Honor societies also have a large presence in our school. Many of our students join these societies based on the academy they are in. Eastlake has 4 academies: biomedical, business, performing arts, and engineering. Our student engagement in these academies is incredible. We have 1,441 students in at least one of our programs. Some of our academies offer certifications, allowing our students to use their skills in the workforce straight out of high school.
Our hard-working athletics programs had a great deal of success last year, including multiple PCAC and district championships and runner-ups, along with a lot of individual student-athlete success. Our biggest sports game of the year is our rival football game, where we successfully defeated Palm Harbor University this past year. We plan to increase our sports engagement by including the sports teams at Club Rush. In the upcoming school year, we have many new ideas and other programs that we are excited to implement into our school, including SOAR. This is an acronym that correlates with our mission and vision. S is for success mindset, O is for ownership of learning, A is for attitude and staying positive, and R is respect for all. We are using this throughout our school to encourage and remind students to show up as their best selves every day. We are also hoping to encourage more school-wide student involvement by hosting more pep rallies for prom or even a quarterly celebration of success.
Finally, our school improvement plan is a major factor in how we will run our school for this year and in the future. Our school-wide priorities include student-centered instruction, implementing AVID-based learning strategies in classrooms, as well as maximizing instructional time for students. We can't wait to put forth these new initiatives and ideas and these changes into our school. Thank you for your time and attention as we highlighted Eastlake High School.
Well done, and thank you all for coming to share all this amazing news about your school today. That you all did a wonderful job with the presentation, and thank you to Principal Schmidt-Diel. Thank you for being here. I hope I said your name correctly. Thank you all for being here. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And now, Mr. Hendrick, are there any recommended amendments to our agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 2 recommended amendments. Item 7.1 in the minutes of the school board meeting from August 1st, a slight clarification on who made the motions for a particular item. And item 8.3, a non-consent item, request approval of the tentative agreement with the Fraternal Order of the Police, which their vote occurred yesterday, and so we're bringing that to the board today for approval.
Are there any other recommended changes? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Hendrick. As board chair, I find good cause to amend the agenda as described by Superintendent Hendrick. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? A motion by Mrs. Hine and a second by Mrs. Meyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none opposed. It passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you. And now we're going to these, there is no special order of agenda. So we are going to move to the public comments on agenda items, which is 5.1. Members of the public have 3 separate opportunities to address the board when we gather for a business meeting. The first is a public comment on agenda items. The second is at public hearings, most of which are policies. And the last is after our meeting when speakers may address the general business of the district. At each opportunity, public input, board members are here to listen to you. This is not the time for interaction, but the board will take comments into consideration before we vote on agenda items. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. The lights on our timers will turn yellow when a speaker has 30 seconds remaining and red when their time has ended. The board is committed to a standard of civility and decorum in conducting our meetings. This includes refraining from clapping or making audible noises during or after a speaker's comments. We appreciate each of you assisting us in maintaining a civil and constructive environment. Lastly, please note that this meeting and all public comments will be broadcast live on the internet, and video will be publicly archived. Members of the public may always communicate with the board through our email address, board@pcsb.org, or calling our board office at 727-588-6300. Thank you. Mrs. Hauk, are there any speakers for agenda items?
Yes, we have two speakers for agenda items. They are Mark Clutho, speaking to 7.12, 7.11, and 8.2, followed by Carol McNamee, speaking to item 8.2.
Thank you.
Mark Clutho, Largo. 8.2. This is saying you're going to work with the 2024 legislature. Now, I'd say that's about impossible, because with those Republicans up there in Tallahassee, you're dealing with a bunch of wackos. I mean, taking their cues from the Governor Ron DeFeur, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, they're worried about things such as woke, while we have much bigger issues to deal with. The planet burns. We have things like the insurance crises. Priorities. It's not going to work. Along those same lines, 7-Eleven. You're talking about bid policies and procedures. Well, there you go. You've been off on that for a long, long time. And where does that lead us? To 712. And another stupid building. So what did Winston Churchill say on September 12th, 1960? We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. And so the headline reads, "The climate future is now." That's what these stupid buildings bring. So the headline reads, "The climate crisis gets worse by the day." And again, I say it's cause and effect. You ignore the science of high-performance passive solar building, and we get these headlines such as stark warnings for the warming planet. UN report spells out dire consequences of climate change. Bad news.
Ms. McNamee?
Good morning. I'm here to speak on the legislative agenda 8.2. First, I want to say that I agree with the first one that you have on the condensed list, under academic excellence through innovation, Pinellas County School Board, legislative, shouldn't have put that other. Anyway, I agree with that. I think that the requirements should be the same for the public schools as the charters and so forth. I totally agree with that. However, this legislative platform is missing a lot. It's missing any mention of erasing the teaching of false history. It's missing any mention of supporting LGBTQ plus students and teachers. It's missing any mention of removing the vouchers that were approved this year. It could include a ban against book bans, like has been done in other states. For example, Illinois is the first state in the U.S. to ban book bans. Schools or libraries there that do so could end up losing state funds. This is from NPR, June 14th. I think that's a good one. Ban book bans, that's a good idea. So I ask that the platform be amended to include that our legislature should embrace law that teaches fact-based history and honors the identities of all students and school employees. Our legislators can undo the harm that they caused this past year. I could add a few more things, but I won't. And ideally, our school district would support them in doing so. Thank you very much.
Ms. Hauk, are there any further speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one additional speaker, Sarah Peacock, speaking to item 8.2.
Hi, I'm Sarah Peacock. I did want to say thank you. I agree with Carol that including the base student allocations and the desire to separate allocations for state scholarships and vouchers for parents from FEFP is also, I'm really glad to see that that's in there. I think that's important, especially after universal vouchers last year. I do agree with her also, though, that we are missing a lot of protections for LGBTQ students and minorities, and teaching a full, complete, and accurate history of African American history and our American history and Florida history has been woefully lacking for a long time and is more important than ever now. And I would also say that I think that we could have a stronger stance on bringing up the standards for private and charter schools. The language in the condensed version does appear to be more of a lowering of our standards to meet them, and I do think that that would be the wrong move. Decreasing the requirements for teacher certifications or allowing additional time is not an adequate substitute for paying teachers well and treating them well. And I think that it is important, although I know that you are required to work inside the laws that you are given, to have you pushing back and asking for better legislation. So those would be the points I'd like to make today.
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers for agenda items.
Thank you very much. With that, we have no items on our unfinished business. We will move to our consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended? A motion by Mrs. Long and a second by Mrs. Cook. All those in favor of the consent agenda say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The motion to adopt the consent agenda passes unanimously, 7-0. And to our non-consent, may I have a motion to approve item 8.1, the setting of a public hearing and authorizing the advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to Policy 2250, Fundamental Schools and Magnet Programs. May I have a motion? I have a motion by approval by Mrs. Hine. Second. And a second by Mrs. Peters. Mr. Hendrick, would you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Even though we've just begun the school year, it's already time to start planning for next year. And our annual district application programs manual comes to the board around this time each year as we start to set the calendar for next year's school choice for parents and for our students. And so I ask our Director of Student Assignment, Ellen Truskowski, to come up and tell us a little bit about the policy that's before you, but then also about the upcoming events for our parents in the community.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Hendrick, and staff, as we discussed in the board meeting on July 18th, we're bringing amendments to the policy 2250 for fundamental and magnet school programs. Some of these changes include our new programs coming forth. We're asking for the Civil Air Patrol Cadet Academy at Azalea, dual language immersion programs at Walsingham and Oak Grove Middle, as well as a new Health and Wellness Leadership Academy at Mangrove Bay Middle School, and a new Mental Health and Resiliency Pathway at the Center for Educational Leadership at Seminole High. There's also some major or minor content changes, geographical locations, different waitlist invitation end dates, removal of the newly invited sibling priority week, as well as some waitlists for the Center of Literacy Innovation. As you know, there's a full accounting of all the changes with the DAP survey of proposed changes. What I wanted to kind of allude to, that he is right, even though the school year started, we are starting to look at some of the upcoming dates. We're doing the In Your Neighborhood events again, starting on October 17th, 18th, and 19th. Each day we'll have either elementary, middle, and high, where families can come out and take a look at what their neighborhood school has to offer as the first choice. DAP Discovery Nights will take place after the fairs that are at the end of October, beginning of November. The special assignment request period is a little bit earlier this year. We'll be opening that November 6th to the 17th. Our pre-K, VPK application period, much like last year, will be opened in the fall as well. That'll be opening up on November 27th. Our DAP application period will be in January once again, the 9th through the 19th. And Ready Set Kindergartens will be pushed back a little bit later this year, and that'll be February 6th through the 8th. For full listing of all upcoming dates, you can check out our website. But thank you for any consideration with the proposed changes.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Trostowski. Is there any discussion from board members? Any comments? I'd like to say thank you to the staff as well for really taking into consideration that feedback from our stakeholders. And I know it's every year, it's how can we be a little bit better? And they really took all of that feedback into consideration when making these changes. So thank you very much for all of that.
Okay,
We have a motion on the floor to approve item 8.1, setting of the public hearing and authorizing an advertisement of the public hearing to consider the amendment to policy 2250, fundamental schools and magnet programs. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There is none. The motion to approve item 8.1 passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you very much. That would go to 8.2. May I have a motion to approve item 8.2, the request of the adoption of the proposed Pinellas County School Board's 2024 legislative platform? I have a motion by Mrs. Peters and a second by Mrs. Meyer. Thank you very much. As the Board Legislative Committee Chair, I would first like to thank Mrs. Hine, Mrs. Edmond, also Mrs. Peters, for all of your engagement and leadership as part of the committee with me. We did a lot of work and several additional meetings. I also like to thank our staff members, Mrs. Dull and Mrs. Hauk, for being with us, taking a lot of notes, and participating in the process as well. As we developed this year's legislative platform listed in our agenda item, our platform brings forward critical items for our advocacy during the 2024 legislative session, and all of these areas are very important. But I want to call attention to a few that are new to this concept and the committee, and we had a lot of discussion about at each meeting as well. The first is the request for an increase in educational innovation by supporting the educational code review by the Florida Department of Education in order to reduce bureaucratic practices for public school districts, to better align with other K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that also receive state and federal funding. The second is to allow rigorous, in-demand, career technical industry certifications to serve as concordance for high school graduation assessment requirements, concordant certifications to be identified by the Florida Department of Education. Another new item is to support this one is very exciting to me, a new and innovative workforce development model that brings together educational pathways and services of the Pinellas County Schools, Pinellas Technical College, and St. Pete College on one campus through the investment in capital funds for Pinellas County Schools and St. Petersburg College. And also to separate allocations for state scholarships and vouchers for parents from the FEFP to ensure that as a school board we have full transparency regarding public school district funding. With the approval of our platform, we're also planning for a legislative gathering with the Pinellas delegation in September. Sheriff Gualtieri will also be joining us to update our delegation and our collaboration and with the impact of school safety legislation on Pinellas County schools. Mrs. Hauk will be communicating with each of you board members regarding the gathering and preparation as we move forward with that. So there will be an email that's forthcoming with additional information. So board members, is there any discussion on our platform? Ms. Cook? Oh. saw you go first.
There we go. I support the platform, and I appreciate all the work that you did on it. All of you on the committee, thank you very much. There was one thing that came to my attention as Ms. Edmond and I had the opportunity to represent the board at the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards. And one of our agenda items also addresses our veteran teachers. After the meeting was over, one of the people that was not part of the education system and doesn't really necessarily know our vernacular asked me how many veteran teachers we had. And I said, I don't know that number right off. And she said, well, are these the ones that came in after the governor said people that served in the military could become our teachers? And I said, no, that's not what this refers to. And so she said, oh, so is this all of them that are in the military? And I said, that's not what this refers to either. And then we kind of explained it. So looking at this and having the same word and dealing with legislators that don't necessarily use our vernacular, when you say veteran, what comes to their mind could very well be teachers that have been in the military. And so I think for clarification purposes, we could end up with something that is not what we're asking for if we don't clarify that. So I think for clarification purposes, I'd like to see the word veteran teachers changed to, and I don't know a really good word, but maybe longstanding or something along those lines. So I would be willing to approve this and allow Ms. Dull to come up with a word. And then at our workshop, then just kind of let us know. But just changing that one word so that it really speaks to what we're asking as opposed to how it could be interpreted.
Absolutely. I think I'm seeing a lot of people in agreement.
Yeah, I don't think that needs a motion or anything.
Do we need a motion to
That's just
amend, or just, we could add that to the vote? Yes? Okay. It's more of a clerical error.
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe that the minutes can reflect, and if other board members have comments, I don't believe that that would require a motion to amend, so long as there's a consent evident of the board that you would give the authority to the administration to make that one change. That's sufficient.
Okay. I think we're there. I see at least 4 people and a majority agrees. Mrs. Hine, did you want to make a comment?
I do, thank you. I appreciate what one of the speakers mentioned about that first item that feels like, oh, we're just going to lower some of the things we're doing on our end, because it's true. That's not what it's about. I think what it's about is trying to find parity. You know, as we know, it's been 25 years ago since under Governor Bush, the state implemented the accountability standards through the state grading system, saying that we want to make sure we know where our tax dollars are going and we want to demonstrate the outcome of those tax dollars. Therefore, this is one way that we think we should do it. We can have another conversation whether we think that that's a great system and how we can make sure we are measuring those tax dollars. And so now tax dollars, they're going to public schools, they're going to charter schools, they're going to home schools, they're going to private schools, right? They're going to a number of different places. And also in that same 25 years, the amount of legislation on schools has nearly doubled. And so the amount of requirements on our public schools only. And so I guess the question is, do we believe in having parity in outcomes and measuring outcomes for any school that's receiving taxpayer dollars? And so, you know, maybe instead of it just being reduce our bureaucratic practices, I don't have the recommended language also, but maybe it's something about finding, you know, identifying, you know, I don't even know what it is, but I think it's about identifying across the board tax-funded education entities, who's required to do what, and finding parity, working together to say, okay, you know, what's good is good, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, or it's not. We are going to treat these people differently. So I'm not exactly sure what my recommendation there, but it's about working with them. I'm so glad that this educational code review is happening, that they are saying, when I met with Chair Masulo recently, they are saying we want to look at how all the different entities, what they are and aren't required to do if they are receiving state tax dollars. So it's just about working as part of that process to identify and come to terms. I'm not sure what I'm recommending, but I just wanted to acknowledge that I agree. We aren't just trying to reduce our own burden and make things, we want to make it right for everybody. anybody that's receiving taxpayer dollars should know that they are meeting standards, qualifications, certifications, et cetera. So.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we agree. Ms. Edmond?
Thank you, Mrs. Cook, for mentioning the veteran teachers and the need for clarification. At the consortium, I attempted to raise our drafted platform issues, and some of the things that I mentioned was the veteran teacher pay. And they were under the assumption that that was something that was already done because of the veteran teacher portion. So clarification is needed on that. Also, something that came up, and I want us to keep it on our radar, is transportation. We're receiving a lot of emails regarding transportation, and we also know by 2026 we'll have to change our start times. So something that was mentioned there was asking for a waiver for transportation, because not all schools may not be able to implement that time change. So that is not what I'm asking us to do right now, but I'm bringing that forward so that we are aware of that specific request that can be made. I know that we have a RFP out for different supports for transportation and looking to see how that works and whether or not our transportation system can make the switch over the next few months would be critical in making a decision of whether or not we need to request a waiver for transportation as it relates to school day start times.
Can I ask a quick question? At the consortium, was that an item that was brought forth on their platform? Waiver for transportation?
So all school boards that are a part of the consortium were able to provide recommendations by a certain date. So a specific county made this request.
Okay.
It is not included
It's
on
not in the
their
state
platform.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification. Mrs. Long?
Yes, I just want to say to Ms. Hine, that's an excellent idea. If charter schools and private schools are taking taxpayers' money, then they should be under the same bylaws that we are. That's, it's, I think it's appropriate. And it's necessary to make sure that everyone's on the same page, because this is not an even playing field. They get, private schools get to pick and choose who they want in their schools. And it makes a huge impact when you get the best of the best, in some cases, students. So I agree with Mrs. Hine. I think that we do need to add some language to make the playing field appropriate. They should have the same high standards. In some charter schools, it's not the same. So I think, in all fairness to all school systems, public, charter, private, we need to all be on the same page.
Mrs. Edmond, do you have something to add?
Chair, I have a question. Mrs. Long has just supported some of the comments that Mrs. Hine has made, but I wasn't sure if there was an official suggestion or amendment to the language. And I am in support if that is what we're trying to do.
I welcome recommendations. I mean, it says increase educational innovation by supporting the educational code review by the FDOE, right? So we know they're doing this code review. So we're supporting that in order to reduce bureaucratic practices for public school districts to better align with other charter, homeschool, private that also receive funding. So it's just the question of, do we want to say in order to reduce bureaucratic practices for us, or do we want to say, it's not just about reducing what's happening for us, it's about identifying all the various levels of who's responsible, who's held to which standards. So I think clarifying for the public, I think clarifying for everybody, clarifying who's required to do what, and then identifying what needs to shift in there. And it might be reducing some of our standards, or not standards, but administrative type of things, right? But increasing some of the requirements on any school that chooses to accept the Florida Empowerment Scholarship. So it's really just this part about says reducing bureaucratic practices for public school districts to better align with the others.
Mrs. Cook, did you have a clarification on that?
I originally heard it a little differently, so I may be off track right now. But what I heard originally was to make sure that people that are receiving taxpayer money for their students, because that money is following them, that we make sure that they are getting the education that they want as well. So adding a separate bullet to the effect of anyone who is using taxpayer money would be held to the same accountability standards as public schools. So that that way they would know, are these outcomes even? Are they, getting their bang for their buck? Are they really getting what they need, and is it meeting their students' needs? So that would be just one option that could be added. But if I misunderstood where you were coming from, then forget it.
I think that's the relative suggestion would be potentially to add another bullet, because it wouldn't take away from what is already there and reducing bureaucratic practices for us. But what we're talking about here is potentially adding, or at least looking into, what are the practices in these other entities that we don't have control over but are also receiving scholarships and taxpayer funding. So is that what the suggestion, or?
I mean, what if it's...
I don't know how we want to word that, but that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I guess we also need to ask, what is the work of this educational code review? I mean, they're the ones, I believe, asking for it. And so I believe it's to identify, clarify, find parity with amongst.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
House Bill 1, which was passed, which is the voucher law, the other part of that was to have a group look at these practices. So this is in direct alignment with House Bill 1. I think when you talk about what is our intent and what are our conversations with legislators, I think we could, perhaps a suggestion, combining both ideas would be to just take out the part that says to reduce bureaucratic practices for public school districts and just have it read by the Florida Department of Education in order to better align, and you may add in the word accountability, right? Because I think it's both things. It's both to look at how are we aligning the different systems that are receiving funds in an accountable way. And that just doesn't mean public school accountability, right? We're not suggesting necessarily that everybody gets a grade, but we're saying the accountability for everything. Fiscal reporting, how do you take tests, all of those things. So if we could reduce those words between to reduce bureaucratic practices for public school districts and then add the word accountability after to better align, I think it captures what the board members are asking.
I think that would encompass Ms. Edmond.
Thank you, Superintendent Hendrick. I am in agreement with that.
Do we have a consensus on that change?
Mr. Kapersky, would that require a motion?
Yes, it would. A motion to amend, and I'm just double checking your work, Mr. Hendrick. No. But I'm just concerned that if we change the first bullet, I want to be absolutely sure that that is what HB 1 says, and we are not taking away from an already designated function that the DOE has agreed to perform. And so we're losing that. But yes, I would ask somebody to make that motion, and if you don't hear from me, then I'm good.
I'll make the motion. I'll move that we strike the words "in order to reduce bureaucratic practices for public schools," and insert, and have it read to better align accountability with. That's not right. Do a say. Put accountability after the word align?
I think you want to say strike to reduce bureaucratic practices for public school districts.
Right.
Leave the words in order.
Okay.
To better align accountability.
To better align accountability. That's better, yes.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs.
Is that clear? Or not?
Madam Chair, so the House bill, it uses a language that they're going to conduct a review of the education code to reduce regulation of public schools. So I just want to make sure that this language aligns to that. So I don't know if you can work that in anywhere, or if the board
Okay.
thinks that that's inconsistent with the purpose of the review being to reduce regulation of public schools. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch the actual language,
Okay.
Mrs. Cook.
So may I change it then? And have it not be,
Do we have to vote?
take that motion away is what I'm asking.
Well, can you repeat the motion? I'm sorry.
The
Would
one
you
that
like
I
the
made
language,
before,
Ms.
the one
Howe?
that I want to make now.
It may be fine, I was not following both.
What you just said is better. So I would like to withdraw my original motion. And if that's okay with the person who seconded it? Okay. So what I would like to make a motion now is, looking at the second line, okay, well, we'll go up to review by the Florida Department of Education in order to reduce regulations for public schools to better align accountability with others. So insert the word accountability and leave it with to, in order to reduce regulations. So strike bureaucratic, put in regulations, and after the word align, add accountability.
Yes. We have a motion for those changes. Do we have a second?
Can we discuss it?
We need a second to discuss it. Can I have a second? And then we have a second for that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second motion by Mrs. Peters, so now it would be open for discussion. So Mrs. Kane, did you want to, oh, Ms. Edmond, I'm sorry, you were the first.
So I'm not sure that that's the same thing that was being discussed previously by Ms. Hine, and just changing the one word and adding another. It's almost the same as what it was before, except accountability is added.
I might offer if we add and, so if we say, in order to reduce administrative practices for public school districts and to better align accountability, or something in there. So I recognize that HB1 might say about this code review, but this is our legislative platform. This platform isn't meant for us to just parrot legislation. It's meant for us to make asks also. And so we're saying that we want to support the educational code review, and certainly we want to reduce administrative practices. We also want to, and better align accountability. So that could work.
Madam Chair? No, I understand, I agree completely, Ms. Hine. The way it's worded right now, though, it says you want to support the education code review that's being conducted. That has already possesses a distinct purpose. So, of course, you can add whatever you'd like to ask the legislature for, but my concern is you're referencing something that's going on right now, but you're changing the purpose almost. So one option is to add another bullet, to keep this one as is, and then add another bullet, but.
Yeah, Ms. Hine?
So we could put a period. We could say, in order to reduce administrative practices, as you read, Mr. Kapersky. So we're saying we're going to support the code review in order to do X, period. In addition, we recommend that through this process, we identify and clarify requirements, accountability and legislative. If we think the word accountability covers it all, I'm okay with that. But similar to veteran, maybe some people think accountability is just means test. But I also mean, like, what in our educational legislative code, who is and is not required to follow which elements of that. There's a really simple matrix that could be made if somebody wanted to actually clarify. They could really put public, charter, private, homeschool, what they are and aren't. I mean, we should have that. The public should have that. This is billions of dollars. We should know who's required to follow which standards. So I think I am asking as part of this process, or I'm recommending that we could have that. We could identify, clarify, and then if that committee wants to, find parity. If they say, no, we don't want to find parity, we want to leave it how it is. But so it's identify and clarify.
So are you motioning to add an additional bullet?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? All right, and do we have?
No, let's vote.
We have to
down.
vote and then have an additional motion. So right now we have a motion on the floor to clarify the wording in the sentence with a second. So that is the motion on the floor currently.
I can withdraw it again if you'd like. Make it easy for you.
Do you agree with that?
Just withdraw it, make it easy.
Okay, she withdraw, and do you agree with the withdraw? Yes. Okay, so we're going to withdraw that motion. Now, are you asking for an additional bullet in this? Are you putting forth a motion for that?
Yes. I'm not exactly sure what it should say, but yes. What I would like to find is, and if it's in the same one, so it should be a separate bullet. So increase this by supporting the review code, period. And then, is it a new part? Is it a new bullet, or could it be part of the same bullet that says, as part of this review, identify, clarify?
But that was what he just
No.
spoke of, that
You think it should be two
that
separate?
is its own entity, and we're adding an additional act.
Okay.
So if we're going to word it,
So I recommend we add an additional bullet. I think we'll have to come up with language. I'm not sure we're going to do that right here.
we need to.
Sorry.
I think we need to. We're voting on the platform.
Okay. Does Ms. Dahl want to help us?
All right, so you are motioning to add an additional bullet?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay, we have a motion to add an additional bullet with, that it speaks about accountability of other K through 12 charter and homeschool programming to align with public school accountability? Is that what I'm hearing?
Madam Chair, I would wait for somebody to make a motion until we have the exact language.
Okay,
One option that the board may consider at this point is to table this item and move on to 8.3. And then, I don't know if Mr. Hendrick wants anybody to work on some draft language. Could always come back at that time.
We can do that. We can table it, do 8.3. I have some staff members working on that as we speak, and they can come up to the lectern and read those if you'd like to table it, and we can come back to it.
Ms. Cook, you have your light on. Did you?
Yeah, I was going to speak to what she was saying, but we're
Okay.
sending this to staff. I wouldn't say table it, but we're sending it to staff. And so I'll hold off until we.
Do we want to bring that back
know
around
what's
this
going on.
meeting?
Yes.
I know we're on a
We'll do
time.
8.3. Give us about
Give us 10
the
minutes.
3 minutes Ms. Texel will talk,
All right.
and then we'll have it ready for you.
She's going to talk for a long period of time so they can work on the wording.
All right, do we need a motion to table it? No. Okay, so we can table it and then come back to 8.2 in a few minutes. So with the agreeance on that, we will move to 8.3, which is the request approval for the negotiated agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police. May I have a motion for 8.3? Movement for approval by Mrs. Cook.
Second.
And a second by Ms. Edmond. Mr. Hendrick, will you introduce 8.3?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, we have 4 employee groups that we negotiate with, and the first agreement for this year has occurred. We're very excited. The Fraternal Order of Police signed their tentative agreement yesterday, or agreed to it, took a vote yesterday, and Ms. Texel is going to tell us more about what's in the agreement and how we move forward. Ms. Texel.
All right, good morning, and I will speak slowly. No, I'm kidding. Good morning, Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Hendrick, and staff. I am here this morning to request approval of the tentative agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police. I want to first thank Dan Churchill and Dean Humphreys as FOP representatives, as well as Ken Afianco, our bargaining agent for FOP, for their work during this process. All employees within the FOP bargaining unit will receive a salary increase of 2.5%. Additionally, the board contributed approximately $170,000 for FOP to make internal adjustments within their pay scale to address credit for years of service for their members. In regards to healthcare, we are seeing a 4.8% increase in our healthcare costs this year. This agreement reflects the board paying 80% of those increases, with the employees paying 20% of the increase in costs. What this equates to is an increase between $1 and $5 per pay period for employee-only plans, and between $7 and $17 for some of our family plans. The board will also cover the increase in the FRS contributions, which are approximately $9.2 million for all employee groups this year, and that is no additional cost to employees. The employees represented by this bargaining unit did ratify the tentative agreement yesterday, and all increases that are approved today are retroactive to July 1st, 2023. And if approved today, the employees will be receiving their raises and retro checks in their September 1st paycheck. So on behalf of the superintendent's staff, we are recommending you approve this agreement with FOP.
Thank you, Ms. Textel. Is there any discussion by board members? We have a motion and a second. Seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Cook and a second by Mrs. Edmond to approve item 8.3, approval of the negotiated agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The motion to approve item 8.3 passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you very much, Mrs. Texel.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Stoll is ready. We're circling back to 8.2.
All right.
Circling back to 8.2, the adoption of the proposed Pinellas County School Board's 2024 legislative platform. So did we have some additional wording for the first bullet?
So I have some proposals. So the splitting of the two could read as increase educational innovation by supporting the educational code review by the Florida Department of Education in order to reduce regulations for public school districts to better align with other K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that also receive state and federal funding. The second bullet will sound somewhat similar but have a different starting point for meaning. Support accountability alignment between public schools and K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that receive state and federal funding.
I like that. Is there any discussion? Ms. Peters, you had your light on first, did you? No?
Thank you. I'm actually, when is this code review? Do we know when that's going to be completed?
The state
and then I have
is
another question after that. So.
Yeah, the state is currently looking at that, but they're submitting, asking for members of the public, superintendents, and others. I believe the Superintendents Association has 2 members that will be represented on there, but they're soliciting feedback right now from the public. Our district submitted feedback. Members of the public have done that. That review will continue through the fall and winter. And then we expect by the next legislative session to have some recommendations, so the legislator may choose to make some changes through law next session.
Okay. And then, Ms. Dahl, could you read that first one again, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the first one is aligned with what was originally in what was posted for today. Increase educational innovation by supporting the educational code review by the Florida Department of Education in order to reduce regulations for public school districts to better align with other K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that also receive state and federal funding. And the second one, the second bullet would start with support accountability alignment between public schools and K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that receive state and federal funding.
Okay. Does that sound, Mrs. Hine?
I guess so when we say support accountability alignment, we're recommending that they support accountability alignment. What about the simple request of identifying having it be identified which regulations, accountability, etc., like which elements of the educational code apply to which taxpayer-funded organizations. If we say we support alignment,
We could add identify and support accountability alignment. I think identify leaves it as not necessarily something we're asking legislators to take action on. We're just asking them to create kind of a deliverable. But in order to take action and support the alignment, they would have to actually obviously identify where overlaps or discrepancies would be.
and I guess having that statement, support accountability alignment, is our opportunity to discuss it. Discuss that there's not alignment. So,
Right. Mrs. Edmond?
And for the first bullet, reduce regulations, is there a reason why we had bureaucratic practices instead of regulations before?
I believe the discussion we had at the committee meeting had something to do with not saying exactly what was in the House bill, but kind of using our own words for what regulations versus bureaucratic practices.
So my question is, would you like to keep it the same, reduce bureaucratic practices instead of making it regulations?
I don't think there's. Mrs. Cook?
I don't feel terribly strong one way or the other. But if I go back to speaking in language that people understand, the legislators are the ones that use the words regulations. If that's what we're talking about, maybe we should say regulations. I will go either way, but I think there may be some value in clarification.
Right. I'll go with that. Ms. Edmond?
You can keep it regulations.
Regulations. All right. So with the proposal of the new wording, if we add identify on the second bullet and continue to use the word regulation on the first bullet, so we're identifying the deregulation on the first bullet, and second bullet is identifying and supporting accountability for institutions receiving public funding, is that more aligned to what you were proposing, Mrs. Hine?
Can you say that again?
Is the wording that she gave, if we included on the first bullet the word regulation, as Ms. Cook suggested, as opposed to bureaucratic practices, so that the bullet number 1 is identifying how essentially the deregulations that pertain to public schools, and the second bullet that she added would include the word identify in the beginning, identify and support accountability for institutions receiving that public funding and taxpayer dollars in that bullet. Is that how those are essentially the changes?
Yep, I can read them again.
If you want to read them again. Let's read them one more time. Or is that what you were alluding to?
So the first bullet would be increase educational innovation by supporting the educational code review by the Florida Department of Education in order to reduce regulations for public school districts to better align with other K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that also receive state and federal funding. The second bullet would be identify and support accountability alignment between public schools and K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that receive state and/or federal funding.
Do you want to make a motion to amend?
I move we amend our legislative platform to include the language suggested by Ms. Stahl.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Edmond to approve the language, the newly added language, and to amend the platform as discussed. I have a motion. Ms. Cook, you have one more.
You're gonna just read the last bullet again, please.
Identify and support accountability alignment between public schools and K-12 charter, homeschool, and private institutions that receive state and/or federal funding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good. We have a motion and a second to approve that wording as the amendment to our legislative platform. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. One no. We have one opposition by Ms. Meyer. Did you want to discuss?
I actually, so obviously we got this agenda a week or so ago, and I looked through this, and I think based on what Mr. Kapersky was saying as well, it's already stated, we already know that the DOE is going to be conducting this code review. And I liked the wording that was in here already, because we were saying we're supporting that, and we don't know what is going to come from that code review. So I don't feel the need to amend it further. If you want me to support amending it further, I'd like to talk about it more in a workshop and maybe see, as more information comes out as far as the educational code review goes. I liked it in its original version, so I don't see the need to amend it.
All right. Being fair, we voted to amend it. It passes with 6-1, 6 yes and 1 no. Do we need to now vote on the entire 8.3 again?
Yes, we do.
Okay, now as amended. Yes.
Especially
Double
since
checking.
Mrs. Meyer seconded the original motion. Let's take a new motion and a second to adopt the amended 8.2.
Yes. Do we need to vote on the first one? That wasn't removed.
So we've got a motion that passed 6-1 to amend
Yes.
the item. Now we need a motion to
Right.
approve the amended item.
You said, yeah.
8.2.
In its entire, I
I'm
thought we
sorry.
already had
Yeah,
one for its entirety before. Do we need to vote on?
As amended.
As amended. All right, so we need a motion to vote on 8.2 as amended.
Motion.
I have a motion by Mrs. Hine
Second.
and a second by Mrs. Cook. All those in favor of approving item 8.2 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, Ms. Edmond, you wanted to discuss it before?
Yes. In the future, I think it's important that we bring our legislative platform to a workshop so that we're able to have this discussion. And that means that we'll need to plan it, do our committee meetings and everything ahead of time so that it can come and we can workshop it.
That has been our
Go ahead, Ms.
That has been our practice in the past. I think it just kind of caught us off guard this year, but I totally agree. We need to do this at a workshop first.
Came very early this year.
Thank you.
Timing-wise, it came early. But, just one more time, we'll take the vote one more time. So all in favor of approving 8.2 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One opposition, Ms. Meyer. So it passes 6-1. 8.2. And just one more reminder on 8.2, so that email from Mrs. Hauk will be forthcoming with additional information on the gathering for all of the board members that will be attending. With that, we already have voted on 8.3, so we're going to new business. First item is introduced by our superintendent, Mr. Hendrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank all of our staff and students and families for a great opening of schools. We saw our first day video earlier today. I thank the board members who've been out supporting schools already on today, this 9th day of school. Excitement and energy has been high. It's been a smooth start on our campuses, and we've seen great examples of teaching and learning already. And extracurricular activities. You heard from our Eastlake High School students. We've have tryouts for all of our fall sports. Our football teams played last Friday. Our volleyball teams are playing this week, cross country. We're being as safe as possible in the heat, but also excited to see our students back in action. And it's not too early to start thinking about Attendance Awareness Month, which is September. Even on the 9th day of school, attendance is always, always important. So I want to recognize that as well. I know the board knows this, but for the members of the public, we had planned on bringing our instructional materials policy first reading to this board meeting, but made that change because of a state board meeting that is occurring tomorrow, which will include updates to the special magistrate process and the appeals process. We felt like we wanted to hear that information, let the state board rule on it, and so we'll bring that back to a workshop on September 19th and then to the board for vote later on. Just a quick update on transportation. The board knows that we've made that a priority this year to improve on-time service. And in fact, the on-time service to students has dramatically improved, especially in the afternoons, where our students are now getting home when they should be in the afternoons. We have received a number of requests from parents and discussion about arterial stops. Our arterial stops are aligned to our board policy, but we are reviewing each of those. We've added some arterial stop requests as our teams have gone out and looked, but currently they are aligned and have helped to improve that on-time performance. Lots of upcoming events. Wanted to mention our open house or back to school nights begin tonight. Our high schools have their back to school nights tonight and many more to follow in the month of August and September. Please check with your school for the details of those back to school nights. Coming up on August 29th is a virtual event as part of our Elevating Excellence to support our students to go to college, and that is a state university system admissions counselors meeting. We started that during the pandemic, and it's one of those things that we found out it's actually better for parents to be able to log on virtually. They can log on with the individual counselors from the different universities they like throughout that evening, and so check our website for more information about that. Coming up on August 31st is our summer graduation ceremony. We expect about 130 graduates from our GED programs, our adult diploma graduates, and those students who needed to finish some coursework in the summer. Those high school students, they have finished that, and we look forward to that graduation ceremony coming up. We also have coming up this fall a continuation of our Listen and Learn community sessions. The board requested to do these 5 times a year. We did 2 at the end of last school year, and we have 3 coming up this year, September 27th at Clearwater High School, October 12th at Boca Ciega High School, and November 8th at Hollins High School. You'll find more information on our website as these approach, and this is an opportunity to communicate with me and the board in a more casual way, as well as some Q&A, live Q&A at these meetings. And I continue with the superintendent's standout. This meeting, our standout is a world languages teacher, Mrs. Kristen Shields. She's been an employee at Pinellas County Schools for 15 years, and she teaches International Baccalaureate Spanish for juniors and seniors at Largo High School. She once again achieved fantastic results from last year's IB students, a 100% pass rate on their Spanish IB exams, including a 100% pass rate on the high level where students earned a score of 5 or higher. That's just exceptional. She is also the graduation coordinator and the senior class sponsor, doing amazing activities for seniors that make them feel special. And she was recently recognized by her colleagues as an amazing teacher, club sponsor, and mentor for students. Congratulations to Ms. Shields and all of our teachers on a great start to the school year.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Hendrick. Any items to be introduced by Mr. Kapersky, our school board attorney?
Just a very quick couple of items because we don't have a workshop until after your next regular meeting. So I want to let the board know that you'll be seeing 2 items on the non-consent agenda relating to litigation. The first one will be to approve the settlement with the remaining defendants in our vaping litigation. So if you approve that, that will end our involvement in the case. You already approved the settlement with the primary defendants, Juul, and other Juul-related defendants, but we have Altria Group and some other defendants. It's a smaller settlement, but you should see that. And then the second item on your next non-consent agenda will be to initiate litigation against the social media companies, as you discussed at a recent workshop. And if you have any questions about those, please let me know and I can answer those. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kapersky. Any items introduced by the board members? Ms. Edmond?
Pinellas Community Alliance held a meeting last Tuesday, and we received updates from the Department of Children and Families, Family Support Services, and other agencies. Once the minutes are written, they will be provided to the board. Also, last week, Mrs. Cook and I had the opportunity to attend the Greater Florida Consortium School Boards meeting. We discussed the past session, our legislative platform as a consortium, as well as develop the platform for this year. That platform will eventually come forward as an agenda item. And then I'd also like to follow up on a few of my comments from the last board meeting regarding PragerU and the letter written to the Department of Education regarding the African American standards. All supplemental materials that teachers may use should be evaluated for alignment to the curriculum, age appropriateness, as well as for offensiveness. You can stay informed as a parent and communicate with your child's teacher if you have concerns about any materials that are available in our schools. Also, a letter was sent to the Board of Education from myself, Mrs. Long, and Mrs. Hine, which ultimately asked that the implementation of new standards be held so that they can be further reviewed, clarified, and revised. Also worth noting, adoption of the materials will be tentatively approved the 23-24 school year, and the state will provide additional guidance. It is important that the state and the district adopts curriculum that would support accurate teachings of history. And on just to end my comments with, we are off to a great start of our school year. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, support professionals, guidance counselors, principals, for all that you do to support the education of all students. You are valued. Thank you.
Mrs. Peters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, we are off to the beginning of our school year has started, and I actually have taken some time to actually stop and talk to some of our crossing guards as they are working, and these are amazing people that I think just don't always get the recognition and appreciation one-on-one, and it's been really actually amazing. These are really incredible people. They just really love what they do, and they're doing this. I know it's Florida. I know it's hot. I'm a native. I love it. But they are doing this in the heat also. So they're doing this in the morning. They're working several different schools in a day, and they're moving around. And so they have a lot of responsibility. They help keep our kids safe. And I just have been just stopping and thanking them and just letting them know they're appreciated. I also want to thank the leadership, our leadership in school administration at the school level. I've been getting a lot of communication from parents regarding the accountability and just the accountability of parents and students as far as policies and rules go. And I've heard a lot of comments about how they're being very strict. I really appreciate that. I've reached out to a couple principals to let them know how much I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to stopping by your schools, thanking them in person. But our students and parents need to know what these be held accountable from day one so that these expectations are set. And I think it's going to make a more safe and cohesive environment at all of our schools so that everybody knows what the rules and policies are. Also, I want to take a personal moment to welcome back Mr. Forbes as assistant principal to Bay Point Middle. He was my assistant principal at Thurgood Marshall when I was there, so I was very excited to see him come back. So welcome, Mr. Forbes, and I know the students and staff are going to be very, very good hands having him there. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peters. Ms. Hine?
Thank you. I think I'll piggyback a little bit on what Mrs. Peters said about setting that tone early. I think in the spring I used the phrase the 10-day tone. You know, you have that 10-day count, which is so important for logistic reasons. You really set the tone of a school within those first handful of days too. And I've certainly felt it. The climate and culture has been amazing, and also the focus on standards, expectations, and discipline has been great, and excellence. There's an absolute expectation of excellence in our schools, and I feel it when I go to them. So thank you for that. I wanted to spotlight a Pinellas County Schools parent, so a PCS parent spotlight, if I might. A parent of 3 of our students has reached the pinnacle in her career, and therefore, I believe, has made us all very proud. Her name is Tori Penso. Her 3 children attend one of our elementary schools, and she was the first American selected to be the center referee for a World Cup match. She was the lead referee for the final of the FIFA Women's World Cup just this past Saturday night in the match against Spain and England. And she's a parent in one of our schools. Her husband is an MLS referee also. It's what they do for a living. But to be selected, the first American selected to be a center ref for a final World Cup match is pretty amazing. And I think we can all be very proud of her. And that's what I wanted to share today. Thank you.
It's amazing. Any other board members? I'll give you all a moment. With that, I don't see any more lights turning on. Thank you all for bearing with us through this discussion today, but I think we handled it and we've got it done. Mrs. Woodford, are there any board requests or reviews that you heard?
Madam Chair, I did not record any board requests.
Ms. Edmond?
I made a request that consideration regarding transportation waivers are looked at once we have the routing or the software.
Well, we made a note of that. Thank you very much, Ms. Edmond, for the clarification. Seeing that, is there any further business we might have missed? Last chance? No. Before we perform our board meeting evaluation, we will officially adjourn our meeting to move to the public participation portion of the meeting. So with that, this meeting is officially adjourned. We are now going to move to public comment for general business of the district. Please note the views and comments of the public speakers are their own, are not endorsed or sponsored by the school board or the district. We cannot ensure the accuracy of statements made, but will review concerns that are raised and take appropriate action, which may include clarifications or referral of speakers to the proper staff members for assistance. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. The lights on the timer will turn yellow when a speaker has 30 seconds remaining and the red when their time has ended. The board is committed to a standard of civility and decorum in conducting our meetings. This includes refraining from clapping or making audible noises during or after a speaker's comments in respect for their time. We appreciate you assisting us in maintaining a civil and constructive environment. Additionally, please note that although board members or Superintendent Hendrick may leave our dais briefly, there are speakers in our back room. We will continue to be able to hear your comments throughout. Thank you all. Mrs. Hauk, would you please introduce our public speakers?
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, Mr. Hendrick, we currently have 7 speakers. The first 2 are Ray Amanat and Mark Clutho.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, staff, Board of Education, and guests. My name is Ray Amanat. I'm an implant to Florida. I moved here about 2 years ago from St. Louis. In St. Louis, I work with a lot of public schools, private schools, and special school district on preventing bullying from happening in our school districts. I would love the opportunity to work with your school on, as Mrs. Peters had said, working with policies, procedures, and programs on getting parents, school staff, and the students all on the same page. A lot of times, if bullying happens in the school and a teacher tries to separate the kids, you're going to have a parent that says, "How dare you touch my child?" If the teacher doesn't do anything, you're going to have a parent that says, "Well, where was the teacher? Why didn't the teacher help my child?" So I would like to get, through in-service training with staff, teachers and staff, presentations for the parents, as well as doing school assemblies for the kids on appropriate ways to deal with bullying. Our approach is a little bit different, where we focus on being a hero, teaching kids to stand up for themselves and standing up for kids that don't know how to stand up for themselves. Giving them the language to focus on safe hands, safe feet, safe distance, as well as safe language. I would love an opportunity to further discuss this with the school board and hopefully get an opportunity to work with the school districts on anti-bullying for elementary schools, and then maybe programs on child safety for the middle school and high school. I had one more thing I was going to say. I do this because I was a victim of bullying throughout my elementary school through high school. And I just want to take everything that I've done for the past 40 years, training and research, to give back to schools and communities to ensure kids are safe. A parent's worst fear is my child is not safe at school. It's coming up with that definition of bullying where it's a child fears for their safety, they fear for their life. their grade levels are affected, where they're dropping grades, and they have that, Mom, I don't want to go to school, I don't feel good. I don't want any child to never feel unsafe at schools. Thank you for your time.
Mark Lutho, Largo. Here's the New York Times Magazine. They lurk inside our everyday stuff. What are forever chemicals doing to us? Or as I like to say, forever poisons. I circled the water. Yeah, what are you doing to protect the students? And what's that great Governor Ron DeFuhrer, doing? He's too worried about woke and other nonsense to be dealing with something like that. There's a sign, just drink that water out there. You would never catch me drinking from your water fountains. And here, look at this one. Why America's not ready for the energy transition. Drew a little, what they call wind turbines. Well, can't get the vernacular right. Turbine? You ever seen a picture of what's at Niagara or Hoover Dam? How many blades are in a turbine? Not 3. That's a propeller, not a turbine. Well, that's kind of like you saying you're making green, sustainable buildings. You don't know the vernacular. You refuse to build high-performance, sustainable buildings. So what happens is we have this headline from August 8th. Antarctica's sea ice is at an unprecedented low. Again, cause and effect. Are you paying attention over there? Hotter oceans push July to be Earth's warmest month on record. This is your legacy. This is what you're leaving. See? Next birthday, I'll be 75 years old. When your students are my age, this planet is going to be a living hell for them. It's a doggone shame.
The next two speakers are Lee Bryant and Stacy Geyer.
Good morning, Chair Kane, members of the board, Superintendent Hendrick, and staff. As a Navy veteran and a veteran teacher of 28 years, we've started referring to in our organization as legacy teachers, which is what we've been working on for a little while. My name is Lee Bryant. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I am president of an outside organization comprised solely of employees of Pinellas County Schools. When I was elected, my hope was that we could develop a team-like approach to making life better for our teachers and our students. I'm not naive enough to believe that we are a team, but I hope that we can work as one. When I was given a chance to speak at Embrace Pinellas, I emphasized our team-like approach to education between PCS and our outside organization. Our outside organization provided hundreds of meals to beginning teachers, welcoming them to our schools. I felt like we were working as a team. When our outside organization was at the Climate and Behavior Summer Institute, and we noticed how cold the rooms at Innisbrook were, our outside organization responded immediately by opening our checkbook to take care of those frozen educators, providing them with hot coffee, hot tea, and plenty of snacks. I felt like we were working as a team. At the last school board meeting, when I was informing our members, all of them Pinellas County Schools employees, of their Weingarten rights, I was reminded of the fact that we are not on the same team. Management and labor, while they might get along and work together, have different needs. Last year, after years of hard work, we were able to come together with an agreement that added an article to the contract that included all of the specialized clinical services, including school psychologists, school counselors, speech language workers, and many more, to recognize that their work is special work and that they have special skills and they deserve recognition and accommodation. We are once again at the bargaining table, looking to make life better for our educators in Pinellas County. In fact, we're meeting this afternoon at the offices of our outside organization to work on salaries and working conditions. I would ask that members of the school board encourage your bargaining team to be forthcoming and generous with your offer. And I would remind our educators that while your administrators might say that you're on the same team, that you are a family, administration works for management. Our outside organization works for labor, for the educators. We will be there to defend your rights even when management won't. All that being said, I don't want the PCA to be considered an outside organization. We are here to stand with you against the mounting manipulative attacks on public education, on our compassionate, committed educators.
Hi, I'm Stacy Geyer from Largo, and I was here with the group at the last meeting just discussing the books, and I'm just asking for a better way for those of us in the community to be able to review those books and get them removed. I no longer have children in the school board system or in the school system, but I am a parent. I am a taxpayer. And so these books that are so sexually explicit are very concerning to me. I think they're very detrimental to our children. And so I ask for a better way that we can review those. I also just want to comment that I think it has been very mischaracterized by those opposing the removal of books, of which books we actually are looking at. It's not classical books. These are not books that are going to help advanced readers go any further in their reading. These are books with sexually explicit material that are so detrimental to these young minds. So I just ask for a better way that all of us in the community can review these books as a whole. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Carol McNamee and Reverend James B. Warren. You don't wish to speak, Ms. McNamee? Okay. Reverend Warren?
Thank you, Chief. If I seem a little radical, please forgive me. But I want to sound the alarm about Democrat, Republican. The preachers is preach from the pulpit now and do certain things to Democrats. But very important, when I saw it on TikTok, I saw children sitting out there. One I want to bring to your attention is those same old kids could be radical and bring a gun in their book bag. It's very important that back in the day we had this say no to drug. We need to do this right here. We need to just say, see something, say something. Encourage your teachers, your principals, to get involved, see something, say something, because that one child could be a hero. I want to sound an alarm. It's getting critical now. When I see a preacher say, throw in the Democrat, come out of church, throw them out, and the kid was cheering on like they're in the football rally. It's very serious now. They don't take it to another level. It may seem comical, but it's getting crazy. As I get on to more into the election, it's going to get more crazy. And they could easily bring a gun in their book bag. So I thank God that I had the opportunity to give back. 35 years ago, Pinellas Park High School, I witnessed a killing, Mr. Allen. I was a maintenance man from out of Old High Point going around to schools. Well, I'm going to say to y'all, sir, you're right about bullying, but right now we're dealing with guns. When the kids get don't get no help from the parent, they will bring a gun and get revenge on other kids. This is something serious we're talking about now. So, simple thing, put on program at the school, or see something, say something, and push that. I hope the governor don't work against that. But the governor did not help things, y'all. He did not help it. There's more guns out there than anything. So, I think I changed the attitude, because last time I was 30 hot. But now when the chief talked to me, we are safe, but we still ain't out the woods yet. Gonna get crazier. And when I saw that preacher from that pulpit talking about do this to the Democrat, I said, wow. Then they show the kids out there. Some of those kids is Pinellas County student too. I cannot say what church it was, but it's serious now. It's a serious matter. And I'm looking for y'all to, I'm gonna sit by there after to get my name, see how we can push, have t-shirt, see something, say something. Okay, I really need y'all help. I wanna come back later on down the line and say, see, I told y'all so. I'm ready to sound the alarm right now. And they're getting crazier and crazier. And the president, want to run for president, he don't take it off, and the governor got more guns out there. That's my opinion. That's his reality. So I need y'all help to save life, okay? And sir, I'm gonna need your help too. You wanna deal with bullying? That was what happened 35 years ago.
Thank you. The next two speakers are Caitlin New and Kara Johnson.
Today I'm going to be reading Push by Sapphire. It's in Eastlake High, Gibbons High, and Hollins High. Page 150. So he on me. Then he reach over to Precious, start with his finger between her legs. I say, Carl, what you doing? He say, shut your big ass up. This is good for her. Then he get off me, take off her Pampers, and try and stick his thing in Precious. You know what tripped me out is I can almost go in Precious. It can almost go in Precious. I think she's some kind of freak baby then. I say, stop, Carl, stop. I want him on me. I never want him on me. I never want him on her. I never wanted him to hurt her. I didn't want him doing anything to her. I wanted my man for myself. Sex me up, not my child. So you can't blame all that shit happened to Precious on me. I love Carl. I love him. He her daddy, but he was my man. Page 127. My clit swell up. Think, daddy. Daddy sick me. Daddy disgusts me, but still he sex me up. I nauseous in my stomach, but hot tight in my twat, and I think I want it back. The smell of the bedroom, the hurt he slapping my face till it sting, and my face till it sting, and my ears sing separate songs from each other. Call me names, pump my pussy in and out, in and out. Ah, I come. He bite me hard. A hump. He slams his hips into me hard. I scream in pain. He come. He slap my thighs like cowboys do horses on TV. Shiver, orgasm in me. His body shaking. Grab me, call me fat mama. Big hole, you love it. Say you love it. I want to say I don't. I want to say I'm a child, but my pussy popping like grease in a frying pan. He's slamming me again. His dick soft. He starts sucking my titty. Page 72. I don't fuck boys, but I'm pregnant. My father fucked me, and she know it. She kicked me in my head when I'm pregnant. I think my daddy, he stink. The white shit drip off his dick. Lick it. I hate that, but when I feel the hot cha-cha-cha feeling in me, he be fucking me. I get so confused. I hate him, but my pussy be poppin'. He say that. Biff mama, your pussy is poppin'. I hate myself when I feel good. It's hilarious how you guys preach to us decorum every single time before the public comment and then let us read these books only because they're in Pinellas County Schools that you approved of. Hope you'll do something about it soon.
Hello, my name is Kara Johnson. I'm a mother of a 5-year-old at
Blanton Elementary School. I feel the need to come up here to express my thoughts because I've been seeing online videos of people who are coming up here, like I just saw, reading excerpts from books that are up for debate right now. I wonder if any of the people in this room have ever seen anything sexually explicit in a magazine, on the internet. Understood. But we also live in a society where everyone has to coexist with each other. So I wonder why we're targeting books and really putting our focus on several pages in a book where if you read the entire book, it has actually meaning and depth behind it. It's not just words on a page. And one other thing I just need to say is that banning books and telling people that they can't read something and look at it from an objective standpoint, that just speaks to me that we're not doing our job as teachers, as educators, to be able to look at something objectively and say, that is a dirty book. Yes, there are things in there that might be inappropriate for young children. This book is not written for young children. My 5-year-old son is not going to be reading that book because he can't even read yet. So there are things that I understand. We are talking about these books as if this is disgusting, but it is our job as parents, as educators, to explain why are these things talked about. And not just to look at it and say, that's disgusting, we can't talk about that. We need to talk about why these things are being written. My son is only 5, but I went through the entire public school system, and I had to understand what rape is, what sexual assault is, what sex is. We all have to learn about that. That is something in life that we have to learn about. So if we take books and we ban the books, what is the next option? To me, I just look at this as a slippery slope. You start taking some things away, all it will lead to is taking more things away. I feel like this is just a distraction to distract us from other things that are very important. And I agree, gun regulation is another thing. That is very damaging for children.
Madam Chair, there are no more speakers.
Thank you all so much for attending this morning's meeting, and have a great afternoon. Thank you. The board will now do its board evaluation.